My man got no fear. He said, I'm going in first.
Peace, God. I'm Divine Allah, owner of Divine Architecture and Construction. We do architectural design and construction. We do a lot of carpentry, framing, a lot of metal work.
So over here, in your right, where the brother is, that's our bathroom area.
Right here?
The floors are all fucked up upstairs, uneven. Every time we put tiles down, they crack because the floor's uneven, it's not level. Now you can look up and see that these beams, they haven't been sistered properly.
What we're doing now is just we're reinforcing the building's equilibrium, the balance, the structure. We're basically making it a little bit stronger than what it was before.
You can't sister this because there's a metal beam here. So we're gonna have to build out. You're gonna have to build the new beams.
You can't sister this. You can only sister wood that is good. These are rotted. That's why your floor is caving in, because
the structural strength in the steel.
See the water damage?
When I first seen the project, it looked like, you know, the building was it was sinking and it settled. You have two different types of settling in a building. You have uniform and you have differential.
All you really do just have to brace this. You see the same like support you have here? Mm-hmm. This is just what we call girders. Girders carry the weight of other joints and other beams. Okay. So you just have to add a couple more girders in here, not fix you. Your wall is caving in, your floor is caving in because your joints are uneven, and that's because the years after you put the once the building is built, it settles.
What's the difference between uniform settlement and differential settlement? Okay, when a building settles, it basically drops, it sinks. You know, it starts to settle into the soil. So what happened was, over the time, the building settled differentially instead of uniform. Instead of the building settling together, it just settled at different spots. So it was higher and lower at different points. And all we did was we just shored it up and made sure that the floor is straight from the foundation coming up.
Good, right here. Right, because these jacks is in the ground. So that's an example right there. So
this right here, and we can tie in, we can interlock in the future. Once we get some more capital, we can tie those in if we want to. Give it more stability. Phase one basically consisted of putting up the main beams and sistering up the main beams.
The beam system here. This beam is holding up the weight of the entire building. So all we did was we sistered the old beam, and then we tied into the old beam with a new beam. And now this beam is supporting the whole span of the building. And we put some horizontal and vertical beams to support the weight of the building, to distribute the weight right in the middle of the building. And then over here, we just added we put another beam system over here, a beam and a girder. And after we put that girder, we just finish it off with an interior wall, a metal gauge construction frame, 16 inches on center, top track, bottom track. Same thing over here. We're about to continue this interior partition and tie into this partition, which we're gonna have two separate rooms. And on this room here, we're gonna split this room with another partition wall, but we're gonna use metal gauge, tie into the ceiling. And eventually they're gonna go with a new ceiling in here so that they can close up the top. We put a new beam system in over here. So this beam is one of the biggest beams here. The reason I use this beam is because it's like directly in the middle of the building. So this will carry the weight of the building very well. And then I waterproofed it so that at least it'll last forever. You know, it won't deteriorate.
Right.
Or the water won't damage it if it ever is affected by water long term.
Long term shit.
So here we got the beginning portions of a slab.
Say that again?
I said this is the beginning portions of a slab that we want to lay. We're not 100% finished with it. This is just, you know, the beginning stages of it. Just seeing what it would look like. And here the same thing, we did the same thing. We braced the joist above with this new beam and girder system. And we locked it in to each other with these metal brackets.
And we tied into the foundation here.
Digging up a foundation, digging up the ground to about maybe 4 feet, a little below the frost line, so that the concrete doesn't move over time. So we dug that out. We dug that out like 4 feet by 4 feet by 4 foot deep, and we filled that with concrete and put our bracing on top of that, because before the building wasn't sitting on a proper foundation. It was just sitting on dirt. So we just basically fixed that problem.
And that's going to carry the weight of the building instead of the building's foundation sitting on just rock. So we dug down 4 feet, 5 feet here, below the frost line. That's why we dug so low, because if you go below the frost line, then you know there won't be any type of thaw. It won't affect the movement of the building. You know.
And then we added some partition walls in the basement to where as though brothers could use for classes, or it's just an upgrade of the basement to where as though we made it useful land. Before it wasn't useful land. And then the next phase is to rip up the subfloor and level off the entire building.
Okay, so there's only 2 phases that we
I would say 2.5 phases, because the last phase is just the finished carpentry. That's like the dress.
Cosmetics.
The cosmetic, you know.
We built this beam also and put the on top of the joists and everything. So we just sistered these beams, me and Just. And then we built our suspended ceiling on top of it, which is non-structural. It's just a partition to cover it. Yeah.
Which was the main beam? Which one's the main beam?
Right here in the back. These here.
Okay.
And we just put the new ones in and then just covered them. Like kind of fireproof them. That's what we do. We build, we elevate in the progress. We elevate in progress in a positive, civilized manner. And that's what God does, and that's what we're doing. You know, this is how the wise man, you know, lays out his land.
So when you measure from stud to stud, the proper way in order for the building to sign off on different projects, it has to be 16 inches on center. So all my projects are done with math. So you see this one is 16 inches on center. This one is the same thing, 16 inches on center.
We did that. So what time I can see it?
16 inches on center. That lets us know that it's done properly by code or by building inspection. Same thing here. Everything is measured 16 inches on center. Everything's properly straight. Everything's straight, secure, plumb. And 16, if you break that down, 1 and 6 equals 7. So that's God. So that means the proper way to do things is to be God. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
It just turns out that way.
Peace.
So we use our math in order to build and elevate and progress in a positive, civilized manner. And that's what we do.